Do you regret your work on Shit Show?
I feel like I'm going to regret this podcast. I am never sure.
Come on, dude. I'm being respectful. Come on, dude. I have changed.
You've calmed down. I'll say that. You've calmed down.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. You're still like a little firecracker.
What do you mean?
These.
What the hell are you talking about?
I would not bring you to a like if I worked in an office job, I wouldn't bring you to an office event.
See, and I think that this comes down. I want to go back to the dead crow thing, like you having a fallout with, because I know you and I also had a little.
Yeah. I admitted I was a shithead on that one. Okay, that one was on me.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I think that was my frustration with our little falling out, because I mean I definitely did have some fault in it. It wasn't like all you.
Yeah.
It comes to
which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the one where I think it started because you had me on a show at Dead Crow, and you told me don't do jokes about this. But it was kind of like
I'm in the right on that one. Is how I feel.
I think mostly yes. Mm-hmm. And then the only thing in my head was what I was about to say was that look, a lot of people. Like you did it to me. Troy did it to me. Mm-hmm. Don't talk about this on the show. But like, it was a Tuesday at Dead Crow and there's barely anyone in the room. And I was just like, all right. And also, to be fair, a point that you made earlier about the drinking and people telling you, oh, you better drink or you better smoke. I don't like being told what to do.
Okay, fair point.
Fair enough. It was your show, but also fair enough. It was a Tuesday and barely anyone was there. No one gives a shit. And so it boiled down to...
I did give a shit about my show as a counterpoint.
Well, that's what it boiled down to you. Yeah. Like, it's not like you can't handle hearing jokes about subject A, B, or C. And it's not like anyone walked out or had a problem with it. And if that were the case, if I like... It was, a show that really mattered at a venue. You were possibly going to lose your ability to do the show. A crowd that was packed out and like, I could have killed the vibe or killed the show. That makes sense. If I were to disobey your request and, that kind of thing. But to me, it was like, it felt like, hey, don't do jokes about this at essentially a dead open mic. To me, it was just kind of like an eye, and again, me at the time, it was just kind of like an eye roll of like, yeah, okay.
What about you now? How do you feel about it?
I don't know. I mean, because now I don't have that proposition laid before me anymore. Like, yeah, I don't know. To me, I think it's comedy, and again, I don't like having the restrictions, but in certain cases there's like a weighing it basis. If I know it's a weekend show, Timmy and Amy were booking me or whatever, and the deal was we really need you to keep it as PG-13 as possible, I'd listen. Most 90% of the time I'd listen. In some cases, and here's why sometimes I feel like sometimes disobeying, because in some cases, like when it was, Timmy or Amy booking me, keep PG-13 on the weekends, but then it was like the time where Lou Musicek was the manager there, and it was a night neither Timmy or Amy was there, it was Lou, and he like knew like what I'm like at the open mics, knowing how funny I can be, and him being like, I don't care about that. Do whatever you want on the show. And in those cases, it's not like I would go balls to the walls and do my fucking worst shit to make the audience squirm, but I would be free to visit whatever subject or topic and play with it. And I usually would do much better on those weekend shows where I know I wasn't being watched like a hawk and I didn't have things that were off limits. And I would give a much better energy for the headliner to walk into. So I think a lot of those times I just feel like any voice of authority that's trying to kind of limit what it is I can do and how I can do it, to me, it's kind of like I don't necessarily agree with your judgment. And I think what we need to at least agree on as producers and comedians is that what matters the most is the audience having a good time and are they laughing? Was it a good performance? Because to me, I'd much rather risk being offensive than risk being boring. And I think that's it. I always felt like I was kind of like bullied and cornered into being boring. And that's what I would take comments like, even if it is like one specific subject or one specific thing, don't do it. That's what I kind of, it wasn't like this Machiavelli, like, yeah, I'll show you. It was just kind of like, whatever, dude. Like, do you even know what's good for the show or what these people?
But at the same time, do you?
Do I?
Yeah, because if you do...
Well, I can only do... Like, I'm in charge of me as a performer.
Fair.
And I can only... And I think what matters most for me to do is to do what I genuinely do.
Yeah.
What it is I work on being good at. And I think what it is I work on being good at is taking the taboo subjects and doing a tightrope walk. And, you know, again, risk being offensive and bombing that way, rather than risking being offensive by trying to play it safe and just not even get the audience engaged. That to me, that's always how I've distinguished a good bomb versus a bad bomb for me. A good bomb is when I go out there and do what I set out to do.
Yeah.
And even if the audience doesn't like it, I at least commit to it and I give a good performance. And I learn from it. I'm like, okay, that doesn't work that way or with that crowd. You know, I can learn. But a bad bomb is when I try a little bit and I can feel the audience and then I back up. I'm like, oh, let me dial it back a little bit. Let me like try to give them some more tame stuff, and then they still don't even like it. It's like, damn, I compromised for you and you didn't even like it. Yeah. And so that's sort of my thinking behind that sort of thing. So I think that was and I think the point I was trying to make comes back to your comment about you're not someone I would take to a corporate event or whatever. I think it makes sense to say I would not hire you as a stand-up comedian for a corporate event, but to take me as a person to a corporate event, I'm very good at knowing like how to behave in different environments. I'm better than most, actually. I think. And I think that was my frustration. Is one, I felt like you and I were really good friends during that time. I felt like, you and despite even having I was friends with you while you felt like you were getting bullied and other people, and I don't think I was a contributor to the bullying. And so I felt like I was like, come on, man, I understand you're having a hard time here, but I'm not one of the enemies for you. And it felt like you were taking out additional like bitterness and anger and like kind of on a power trip with like, I gave you a thing and you disobeyed it. Now you're in bad standing with me. And to me, I was kind of like, come on, dude. Like, I was like, I feel like we should have more of a trust and rapport with each other to where we're not here. And so I felt like a lot of our riff was me trying to go at that angle of like, look, I am sorry that you asked me to do a thing and I didn't do it. Granted, there was no real repercussions for me doing it. It's kind of just like a petty thing at this point, but I am still apologizing to you. Can we please like keep being friends? And you were just like, no, fuck you. And I was like,
well, I'd probably say fuck you.
I think you might have.
I'm too big of a pussy. I am too big of a pussy to say no, fuck you.
You at least gave me a nonverbal fuck you. You know,
that's fair. Yeah. I do that with most people. So I know we have more to get to in that. But I do want to give you a counterpoint.
Yeah, for sure.
So remember when I was talking about how Wilmington is more art centric and like Raleigh and some of the other ones are like not joke centric in this sense, but like more business centric. I think is a good equation of it. I saw it as like a lack of professionalism or like a lack of a professional courtesy to me since it was my show. And you may say that sounds like egotistical or have some type of power trip or something to it.
I think there's two sides to it. I think it both sounds like that and it's also genuine. Like it is
me trying to put on the best show possible and have no bumps in it so that I can't, like, it was at Dead Crow, right?
Yeah, I think it was when you were doing the Hot Ones thing.
So that is like, okay, I'm trying to make this show as good as possible so more people come back time over time, and I have equity in the scene. I have equity with the club. I am viewed as someone who can put together a good show. I'm viewed as somebody who like has a future in comedy, kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just that in that moment, it was like, you know, I don't want anybody to complain to the club. I don't want anybody to leave a bad review. And it all comes back to, it was on my night. It was my show. I was responsible for whatever thing happened. And that's why I asked you to do that.
Yeah.
Going and doing other things, like it's second nature to me to ask if there are any content restrictions from a venue or a show
right
when I do it. And that is because it's a two-way relationship when you're booked on a show. It's like you booked me, you have the show, and you're producing it here, and I'm going to come here and do a good job on it.
Yeah.
And like I'll kind of conform to whatever parameters you have, and I can see where that is like a compromise in artistic integrity, because when I do comedy, I like at Dead Crow. That's one thing I love about it is I am like, okay, I'm booked based on what they know I can do, and I don't have any content restrictions. I'm sure, and a lot of people is like, my comedy is not offensive. It's not super risk taking. I just like telling jokes. And that's fine. There's I love comedians that make points in their comedy, and it's just not how I do it.
I'm not making any points. I'm just pressing buttons.
You make points. No, you point out hypocrisy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you do make points, and it's some of the shit is really solid. And I'm like, yes, I like that point that you're making, but it's like, first and foremost, it is funny.
Yeah.
It is not making.
That's what matters the most.
Yes, with any of it.
That it's so cringy. The people that like they're making a point is number one and being
like,
funny
it might
is
be
second.
Funny. Yeah,
second.
yeah.
I was like, oh god, it's like the thing where it's like they'll keep that part of their set that gets an applause break rather than a big laugh.
Yep.
And like, oh fuck you.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I didn't know we were doing speeches here. I didn't know. Yeah. I thought it was supposed to be comedy. It needs to be laughs per minute.
Like being in 2016, we're like, I think Hillary Clinton's gonna win the next election. Yeah, applause break.
Yeah. Similarly, if you go to a small town, you're like, I like Trump, and they're like, hell
yeah,
you do. Yeah. It's like, where's the joke in it? And that's why I like people that like do political stuff but shit on both sides of it. Even though we should have more than a two-party political system, but hey, you know, what am I on about? Yeah. Anyway, so it is like, it's like a business relationship.
Yeah.
Being booked on a show like that. And it was like, I thought I'd asked like a friend for a favor. Yeah. And you were like, my art is more important than that.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. And I think that had a few variables been different, I would have 100% listened to you. Yeah. Like, had we not been at Dead Crow, it been like a venue that's like giving you a chance, I wouldn't have taken that risk.
Yeah. They were giving me a chance, to be fair.
Yeah, but also if like, you know, Amy or Timmy saw that show and I did, you know, whatever subject it was, and the audience didn't like it, there was a really adverse reaction, you know, they would have been upset with me.
I don't think they should be mad at you. I think they should be mad at me.
Oh.
For me putting the show together that I did. It does fall on me. That's how I felt. Oh, because they're giving me this time slot and they're like, you make money in this. Make a show in this. Make it good.
Pick the lineup.
Go ahead. Yeah. And I was given free range to do that. Yeah. And I think it would come back on me if the show's bad. Yeah. And that is why. Yeah. I felt like it fell on me. And people should take more responsibility like that. Yeah. Even if it doesn't, like blame yourself for things. Like 100%. If you're a comedian and you go up and you don't have a good set, don't blame the audience. Even if it was them, make it your fault. It'll make you better.
Yeah, no, I agree. The radical responsibility sort of take.
It's also 100% toxic, but it makes better.
Well, it's toxic if you let it tear you down.
Yeah,
and you let it have a negative impact on you. But if you're taking that perspective and mindset for the sake of learning and improving, then it's good to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think that the nuance of the situation was kind of like, hey, I hear you. I hope you understand I'm not being disrespectful by not listening to you.
It was one of those where, like, I hope you understand I have to do this.
Yeah, and it's also kind of that pressure, like, you know, I'll be funny real quick, just real quick, and then I'll stop being funny. But
why start now?
But like, you know, I have that form that says like, hey, what should we not talk about? And you know, you put some things down there, so it would be funny if the things that you put down there just in the middle of the podcast, I was like, hey, so I want to talk about this, those exact things that you put down. So to me, and I really don't remember the specific set or even what I did on stage that time that we're talking about.
Me neither.
Yeah, I don't, but I imagine that it wasn't like I went hard in the paint on it out of like a big, you know, fuck you. It was kind of just like, it was mostly going well, and, you know, the audience was there.
And then there was a moment where you're like, fuck this.
It was like, I kind of, no, it was like a moment, I just did it for you. Like, like kind of just
I
like,
knew that was part of it.
Right.
And I think that was probably part of the reason that I got frustrated, because I'm like, you fucker, you did it to fuck with me.
Well, no, not even, no, I didn't do it to you. I did it for you. Because again, my thinking was that we're good enough friends and have the rapport to where it's like, it's going well, I'll just throw the word out there, the joke or whatever, and then it's like the audience laughs, but then you don't even care that the audience is still on board. You're just like, I had a thing that I asked you not to do and you did it. And that's, to me, that I think that's what it's almost like, if I were to go to the corporate party that you took the risk of inviting me to, and I was really well behaved the whole time, and then we get to that point and everyone's kind of drinking and you introduce me to your boss, and like, here's my friend Cameron, he kind of does offensive comedy, like, offensive comedy, I love offensive, and he starts talking about how much he loves it, and he's like, come on, let me get something out of you. I'm like, I'm kind of coy, I'm like, I don't know, I'm probably not going to take that risk, because, you know, Tyler's taking a risk taking me here, and I don't want to get him in trouble having a crazy offensive friend or whatever. But then we get to that point where I'm talking to him and I can actually like feel the nuance, like, he can handle it, and then I do, and he fucking laughs his ass off. Everything's good. It improved all the social dynamics by taking the risk. But then on the car ride back, you're like, I told you not to do that.
Well, in that situation, I'd be like, you fucker, I told you not to do it, but it turned out okay.
Right. Well, that's what I see. My whole take as it is, I felt like I was upset that what you just said was not. I feel like case.
This was more of a, so we're friends, but we're also coworkers. And
see, I never looked at any of the creative stuff that way. I was very, even still now, like, I wrap my head around the more business oriented and entrepreneurial approach. But I think the thing that makes comedians and artists of all kinds good, I particularly have a lot of like really strong thoughts about just shooting film stuff. Yeah, because it's really hard to not do that and like to do nice polished work there and it not be like a formal sort of corporate-y environment. It's hard to find that dynamic. I think it's really important to keep things colloquial and like keep things more like it's friends hanging out, just like being creative by accident rather than, so, you know,
it's hard to make a living like that.
It might be the longer road. Yeah.
I do think, to be fair, I think that the fans you get from doing things like that will be harder core fans. Yeah. I will give you that 100%.
Yeah, no, I think it is. I intentionally am taking a longer, harder road for the sake of, one, preserving what is genuine with me, because I really hate being a shell or like a watered down version of what I am for the sake of being able to sell it to more people or being able to make it more digestible to more people. I like can't.
Sorry. Would you define me as that? Be completely honest.
No, I don't feel that you have. I feel like you are able to be who you genuinely are as like a comic personality. Like what I saw you do on stage the other night, that seems like that's you. Or that's, the comedy version of you. It doesn't feel like that's the corporate comedy version of you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It feels like that's really you.
That's what I was saying earlier. 100% Dead Crow allows you to be whoever you want to be on stage. And
not me.
Well, the way that I talk is the way that I'd like to talk on stage, where it's like I say some fucks and I say some shits, but I'm not doing anything crazy.
Right.
And that's how I speak.
Yeah.
And being able to do that in a genuine atmosphere, I think it makes me be able to give my best version of how I do comedy to people. And I understand what you're saying about like the restrictions, like kind of hindering that.
Yeah.
And I think it's more like I've traveled a lot, and I think I just got I think I'm in a point where I'm just so thankful for any stage time I get.
Right.
Because I went through that here where I wasn't getting, wasn't booked on the local showcases and things like that. And I'm kind of afraid to fuck that up, but also it is, I think, just a good comedy business practice to like, that's what people always mention things is like, don't ruffle any feathers.
Yeah.
Like just when you're, be thankful for the spot and things like that. I'm not saying you should have been like thankful. It's just like, that's my mindset of it, is that I like when someone's producing a show, it is, I'm going to do comedy for you. You have given me a spot. It's a two-way thing. And if any of us have anything that makes us uncomfortable, we can talk to each other about it.
Yeah. And
then like respect each other's boundaries when it does come up.
Yeah.
And it probably does hinder the art a little bit, in all honesty.
Yeah. 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 I think it just boils down to, I didn't understand why you were taking it so seriously, where I felt like it should have been more casual, and then there should have been more leeway and forgiveness between us. And I think I was just like kind of shocked and saddened that there wasn't, but also at the same time, I kind of like chalked up the way you were with me in that situation, just me kind of being swept in with the problems you were having with most of the other people around you.
That's a little fair.
Yeah. If it was like Tyler's going through a thing, I'm just a side casualty to it.
Yeah, there were people kicking me in the balls, and then you pinch my nipple. I feel like it's
yeah. That makes sense.
That's part one of this.
Yeah. What's the other thing?
The thing with your ex-girlfriend.
Oh, I barely even remember.
You don't even remember that?
Try talk to her.
I like talked to her a little bit. And then she like told you that I did, and you're like, "What the fuck happened?" And I'm like, "Oh, here it is." And I just gave you my phone and walked away.
You and like 4 or 5 of my other friends.
Yeah,
I don't even give a shit about.
My
that.
bad.
No, it's fine. I don't give a fuck about any of that anymore. I'm friends with every single person that she told me was doing that still, and
but I do want to apologize. That was 100% on me.
Yeah.
To be fair. We were at the point in talking where there was no anything. There was no innuendo at all.
Yeah.
It was like an implication for a date, maybe. But then I was like, as soon as she did that, I was like, oh, fuck this. This is...
Yeah.
I would not now. Because it's too much.
Yeah,
I should not have, because you are my friend. That first and foremost. But letting people into my inner
like
piece of shit monologue.
Yeah, like I said, I don't. I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh, do you remember this? I got more.
Oh, do you?
No, I'm just fucking around. What's the other part?
You were the one that said there was another part.
Yeah, I unfollowed you on Instagram for a different reason.
Oh,
I was jealous you got a TV credit.
Be on the fucking dating show?
Yeah.
That's why you unfollowed me?
Yes, I told you that.
What the fuck?
I know it's dumb. I know it's dumb. I'm sorry for that one. I was wrong in that one.
You sure were?
Yeah.
Bow down to my E credit. My E network
Dude,
credit.
I wish I had a TV credit. I do. If I just had that, I'd be famous.
I ought to start leaning into it more. Just
Do it.
Trying to book myself as a headliner. And
Yeah.
be like, look, I'm on the fucking E network.
Hell, put Hulu on there too because it's probably on there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. It's
It is.
E, Hulu. What else you got? Hell, if it's aired in like on a different channel,
I should put like the shit show logo on there to act like it's something serious.
You should say officially endorsed by, and then list every comic that's been on the shit show.
Yes. Open for Tracy Smith.
Oh, book him now.
Is the son of Tracy Smith.
You got the name checks out.
It does. Yeah.
What other gotcha moments you got over there on that computer?
That I didn't even write that down. It was just something that came to my head. I was like, I bet if we talk about the riff and the comedy scene that you experienced before moving to Raleigh, I was like, that might be worth getting into, because I like the raw and kind of uncomfortable. I didn't feel like it was going to be super uncomfortable because we've already like moved past it. I feel like it was finally at Drew's wedding 3 years ago that you and I were kind of like finally like, can we be cool now? You're like, yeah, all right, I'll let it go.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, cool.
It's this fucking dude. I've been doing comedy 10 years. You've been doing it like what, 12, 13, 14, something like that?
No, just a little over 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was 10 in September.
Dude, that's crazy.